The Hollywood tea is scalding today, everyone. Hugh is revealing how Ryan has been intimidating everyone around him, including directors, makeup artists, and co-stars after years of their alleged bromance. It appears that Hugh is tired of acting like Reynolds' bullying is just lighthearted banter. Furthermore, it appears that Ryan's vile actions are not exclusive to Hugh. While keeping up his nice guy persona, he has been having tantrums, threatening to ruin his career and displaying his true nature behind the scenes. However, what specifically did Ryan do that was so awful? Why has Hugh made the decision to speak up at last? And in light of the Blake Lively fiasco, could this be the last nail in Reynolds' professional coffin? Let's begin. The worst aspect of this whole issue is about to be discussed. Ryan Reynolds believes he has the right to terminate anyone who doesn't comply with his demands. Reynolds once threatened to terminate a makeup artist's entire career because they were unavailable for some reshoots, according to a startling disclosure from Fox News. As the insider revealed, Ryan Reynolds threatened to fire the makeup artist off the rest of the film and the reshoot they had to do, and also said, "If you don't come back and do my makeup, you won't ever again work in Hollywood. I consider this to be outright career blackmail." Reynolds acted as though they personally offended him by having a life outside of serving him, even though his makeup artist was really out of the country working on another project, as is customary for professionals in the business. Even worse, there was absolutely nothing the studio management could do about it. The insider acknowledged that Fox officials were irritated, but since Reynolds had already assumed complete control of the film, they were forced to acquiesce, since a truly confident person doesn't need to jeopardize the livelihoods of others. In order to feel significant, this is the exact type of power-hungry behavior that shouts insecurity. However, folks, this destructive trend has existed for a long time. It seems to have been Ryan's MMO for a long time. It has been stated that Hugh Jackman, who had to collaborate closely with Reynolds during the making of Deadpool and Wolverine, has been subjected to this kind of domineering conduct throughout their working relationship. According to People close to him, Hugh is finished with Reynolds' behind-the-scenes shenanigans, even if at first he played along with the fictitious feud story for the cameras. According to a source, Jackman will be deposed in the ongoing legal dispute between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. Reynolds is gazing over his shoulder anxiously as a result. If a trial is held, Hugh will be deposed. That he cannot is not possible. This is significant because, in a sense, Hugh is aware of the locations of all the graves. After spending years with Ryan, he may now be required by law to disclose what he has witnessed. It makes sense that Ryan is perspiring. Now, makeup artists aren't the only ones who are subject to Ryan Reynolds' domineering behavior. There are even rumors that he forced a director to leave the Deadpool franchise entirely. Naturally, we're referring to Tim Miller, who helmed the first Deadpool film that restored Reynolds' reputation. Nevertheless, he did not return for the follow-up. Why? Because Ryan desired total artistic authority. It became evident that Ryan wanted to be in charge of the franchise, as Miller later acknowledged. As a director, you can operate that way with great success, but I can't. Translation: the director of the first movie would rather abandon a lucrative franchise than deal with Ryan's ego for a follow-up feature because Reynolds was such a terrible nightmare to work with. It's more than just a difference in creativity. That is a clear indication of a person's character. This is the point at when chaos ensues. Ryan now has complete creative authority of Deadpool, as we've already established. He is essentially free to say and do anything he wants, and most likely, people will just accept it. Apparently, there is something intriguing about the niece figure that fans have noticed. You know Deadpool, but friendly. Is this going too far? The judge is you. In any event, Hugh Jackman is drawn into the turmoil at this point. He had to watch while Reynolds utilized their film as a platform for his personal grudge as Wolverine. It's safe to assume that everyone on set was aware that the pleasant pool persona was intended to make fun of Baldwin. Hugh was thus compelled to take part in what was really bullying at work that was passed off as humor. According to those close to Jackman, he was extremely uneasy about this, particularly considering that he had no personal grudge against Baldoni. However, Reynolds had complete control over the film, so Hugh was forced to comply or face being shut out himself. However, if you believe that Reynolds simply frightens individuals behind the camera, you should reconsider. For years, his co-stars have endured the same poisonous treatment. Consider Marina Baccarin, who portrayed the lead female character in the original Deadpool film. Observe how she was essentially ignored in the follow-up. That wasn't a coincidence, apparently. Reynolds chose to remove her entirely from the promotional materials rather than managing a creative difference like a pro. She's basically grounded because Ryan believes she's overbearing, a person close to the production team stated. Reynolds' treatment of anybody who dared to disagree with him is seen in this outright act of revenge. This may seem trivial, but for performers who rely on publicity to keep their reputations in the business, it can be detrimental to their careers. And it wasn't just Marina who experienced this. TJ Miller, who portrayed Weasel in Deadpool, is another one of us. TJ Miller now come up regarding Reynolds' unpleasant actions on set, in contrast to Marina. Additionally, he didn't hold back when he said that Ryan was truly cruel to him, and not in a lighthearted manner.
And I think it's weird that he hates me. And
Well,
I think some people.
Do you know he hates
We
you?
had a really weird moment on Deadpool where he said, let's do one more take. And everyone was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then as the character, he was like horrifically mean to me. But to me.
Miller recounted an especially embarrassing experience. In front of the whole team, Ryan would disparage him, demonstrating that TJ was unimportant and only a supporting character. "You know what's great about you, Weasel?" he said. "Even though you're not the main character, you provide just enough amusing exposition before we can depart and return to the actual film." This is a classic kind of bullying.
I think after he got super, super famous from the first Deadpool, then things kind of changed. I think he was like, see, you guys see? And then I think I don't know. I mean, would I work with him again? No.
No.
I would not work with him
That
again.
much vitriol.
He makes people feel inferior and devalues them by abusing his position of authority. For what purpose? To stroke his own pride? To establish authority? In any case, it is extremely poisonous. Probably the first person to notice this pattern of behavior was Hugh Jackman. Additionally, sources claim that although he first kept quiet about it in public, he has grown more uneasy about Reynolds' treatment of their coworkers. It says volumes that Reynolds continues to burn bridges, whereas Hugh continues to establish relationships with other industry professionals. Speaking of damaged relationships, let's discuss Jake Gyllenhaal, another ex-best buddy who seems to have lost his tolerance for Ryan Reynolds. In the past, these two were inseparable, appearing to be the best of friends when doing interviews together. But Jake won't even discuss Ryan anymore because of a dramatic event. Gyllenhaal reportedly acted quite cold when questioned about Reynolds in a recent interview, and Jake shut down any further questions regarding their connection. It is not typical for friends, or even former friends, to act in this way. Their collaboration on the 2017 movie Life is most likely the root of the entire issue. Many people think that the reason their friendship mysteriously ended after that assignment was because Jake decided he didn't want to work with Ryan after seeing his true nature while filming. Another actress from that same movie, Rebecca Ferguson, has spoken about having a terrible experience with an unnamed co-star who was, quote, insecure and angry. And Reynolds is the obvious choice.
He did a film with an absolute idiot of a co-star. And this human being was being so insecure and angry because this person couldn't get the scene.
Ferguson stopped acting with this person because of how horrible things had gotten.
The person would literally look at me in front of the whole crew and say, "You call yourself an actor, this is what I have to work with. What is this?" And I would cry walking off set.
But then she finally stood up for herself.
The next day I walked on and I said, "You get off my set. You can F off. I'm going to work towards a tennis ball. I never want to see you again." I was so scared. I feel...
At last, though, she asserted her own rights.
No. It's not every day a guy gets to interview the love interest of his best friend's wife, and the guy trying to replace Ryan as a husband and me as his best mate.
Holy shit.
I've never done an interview before, but I've done a lot of things, like crazy things in Australia. You do understand you can't even get into preschool unless you take a person's life with your own bare hands. Twice.
Totally.
So listen, I've just got one question. What the hell are you doing messing with my best buddy's wife?
Ferguson never gave specific names, but it's clear from the cast roster and timeline who she was referring to. And now that he has worked closely with Reynolds, Hugh Jackman has probably seen similar behavior in action. Do you recall that awkward, "it ends with us" promotional skit that wasn't related to the film? Hugh was drawn into that situation and made to put up with Reynolds' cruel derision of Baldoni. Hugh said things on the video that were obviously intended to intimidate Baldwin. No, a guy who is attempting to replace Ryan as a husband and me as his best friend doesn't get to interview his best friend's wife's love interest every day. Holy, although I've done a lot of wild stuff in Australia, I've never done an interview. You realize that unless you kill someone twice with your own hands, you won't even be allowed to attend preschool. Absolutely. So pay attention. I only have one query. Why in the world are you interfering with the wife of my closest friend? Hugh found himself in a really awkward situation. At the same time as a home film was being eclipsed by juvenile Hollywood drama, he was effectively being used as a weapon in Reynolds' personal grudge against Balan. Even worse, Hugh felt compelled to express his support for Reynolds and Lively by going to the premiere of It Ends With Us, a film he had nothing to do with. In order to prevent contact with the Reynolds-Lively camp, Baldwin was allegedly being held in the basement during this time and had to arrive early. Hugh unintentionally became involved in this power struggle, and according to reports, he regrets it greatly. This leads us to the final straw. Hugh recently found out that he could be removed from office during the legal dispute. Hugh finds himself in a precarious situation. Either he lies under oath to protect Ryan, or he exposes Reynolds' wrongdoing and publicly breaks off their connection. Clearly, neither choice is desirable, and Hugh is said to be incensed that Reynolds' behavior has placed him in this predicament. It's becoming more and more obvious that the endearing, humorous Ryan Reynolds we see in interviews is merely a meticulously constructed character, because he is said to be vengeful, domineering, and insecure behind the scenes. Scarlett Johansson, his ex-wife, has even made references to this. She has characterized him as passive-aggressively jealous, although she has always been tactful about their breakup. Alanis Morissette, his second ex, also expressed similar views. She released a whole album after their split that was influenced by their relationship, with the song You Ought to Know having especially poignant lyrics. I can get over it if I just admit that I'm incredibly insecure, shattered, and devastated. Observe a trend. People who know Reynolds well frequently use the adjective insecure, which shows itself as bullying and domineering behavior. It appears that Reynolds targets those who could eclipse him. His marriage to Scarlett Johansson reportedly ended as her career took off, and he swiftly moved on to Blake Lively, who was still making a name for herself in significant movie roles following Gossip Girl. She therefore posed no serious threat to him or his ego. His professional interactions likewise exhibit this same trend. Hollywood is now hanging its breath as Hugh Jackman gets ready to perhaps testify over Reynolds' actions. Ryan's wife, Blake Lively, is already dealing with her own PR crisis due to the Baldwin case, so this comes at a very awful moment for her. Interestingly, Blake and Ryan are both accused as being domineering, challenging to collaborate with, and deceptive behind the scenes while upholding flawless public personas. They sort of want to put the genie back in the bottle, as one source put it. But guess what? The genie is unwilling to return to the bottle. The couple's meticulously manicured persona as Hollywood's ideal pair is disintegrating on several levels. In the meantime, Hugh Jackman is readjusting to life after splitting from his 27-year wife. Though some have questioned whether this romance is real or just another Hollywood public relations ploy, he has been dating his Broadway co-star Sutton Foster. It is evident that Hugh no longer wants to participate in Reynolds' games. After Hugh finally saw Ryan for who he truly is, the once-enjoyed bromance turned out to be toxic and one-sided. It appears that Ryan Reynolds may finally be leaving his days of controlling sets and intimidating co-workers behind. The nice guy facade is quickly disintegrating as more and more co-stars talk about their bad experiences, and Hugh Jackman may have revealed the truth under oath. How do you feel about these disclosures? Do you support Ryan or Hugh? For more Hollywood tea, remember to subscribe to Fame Focus and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. This drama is far from over and we'll be here with all the updates.